Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Night. I am Brian Smith, your host, and I'm also the publisher at Inside the Nights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. Been doing a little bit of recruiting research and watching some film, and today kind of kicked off my 3 to 4 week overview of the commitments for UCF. There'll be a lot of different stories up about that. Today, I have 2 commitments from the class of 2022 that I watched some film yesterday and today. Kayden Kittler, the offensive lineman from John Paul II in Plano, Texas, right on the edge of Dallas. And then I also did a film review just a little bit ago of cornerback Ncaa Martinez from Apopka High School, just north of the city of Orlando. Both these players have committed to UCF long ago, and both of them are very talented prospects. And I just kind of wanted to go over a few things about what's coming up at not only Inside the Nights, but just in recruiting in general. Again, I'm going to do each and every kid based on their senior film and what I've seen basically all year long, whether it's live, etc. And I'm going to try and find out what I can regarding their ability next year. A little bit of what I'm going to do with the senior film review. Hey, can this kid play next year, or does he need a red shirt? Sometimes it's more position specific. Like Kittler has told me flat out without me even asking, he plans to redshirt for UCF next year, and he's probably going to be an interior lineman. With that stated, there are a lot of kids that can come in and play in this class, and it's unique because UCF not only needs playmakers, they need defensive players, they need depth. They need a lot of different things, but they also needed guys that had the right attitude for it. And I think this class, from a philosophical perspective, they have a lot of players that believe in themselves. So keep that in mind as you read through some of my reviews on Inside the Nights. This is not your typical class that you just look at from okay, what's he ranked? What has he accomplished? What has he been in terms of recruiting? Who offered? Was it Alabama or was it Florida? Whatever it may be. This is a little bit of a different group than what I'm used to seeing. The Florida kids in particular, extremely confident group. A lot of them probably to a point that it's almost dangerous or detrimental. But that also helps you in terms of making the adjustment from high school to college because you believe in your abilities. With that, a couple of things that I just want to talk about, because this is just an introductory podcast talking about it. And I'm going to eventually, in the next day or two, I'm going to put up a post that I'm going to leave on the main page, and it's going to get continuously updated. Every time I put up another update about an individual player, it's going to go within this article as well. And there'll be 2 different things there. That way, all the commitments will be in one spot. You click on this main article, then you go down and you by position, quarterback, running back, et cetera, all the way down. And then you look at it and you find what you want to look at, or you go back in. Hey, I don't remember how big this kid is. It'll have heights. It'll have weights. It'll talk about their athleticism, the high school they went to, who offered them, what I believe are their strengths, things they need to work on. I call it refinement. Those are all going to be listed within the article. Now, overall, they've got 15 commitments, and I've waited forever on purpose to do this list. Number one, because I wanted to see senior film. But number 2, this is a different era of recruiting. Kids decommit all the time. It's just part of the gig. Heck, they just had a decommitment from a kid that was out of the portal. I mean, it's just, there is no such thing as commitment until they're signed, and even then it doesn't mean diddly. So I've waited as long as I can. The signing day for the early period is the 15th of December. So we're just a little bit under a month. We're 27 days away from that. And now the question becomes, which other players will the Knights bring in? And here's your question for today as we head into segment 2. Again, going to be kind of a short one. I just wanted to go over some overviews and talk about a few of the kids. With UCF at 15 guys and the portal looming, and I know this flat out from people around the program, the portal is very important to what they're doing for this class. It's not like it used to be. It's not just high school and junior college. The portal is very important. Should UCF take more chances in terms of waiting on the portal, or should the Knights sit back, just kind of evaluate where they are with high school players, go ahead and take guys they know more about because they've seen them, especially like a Central Florida area kid, somebody from Cocoa Beach all the way to Clearwater Beach, somewhere in Central Florida, maybe a kid from Broward County or something down in South Florida that they have a lot of familiarity with. Or if there's a really good player that may only have 1 or 2 years, I don't know, a school like Ohio State, maybe it's Virginia Tech, whatever it is, and take that player. This is the debate that has been going on amongst myself, other guys that cover recruiting, and just fans in general. How do you impact your program the best? Obviously, there's not one answer because each kid is different. I understand that. But which is it that's best for UCF? Does that matter in regards to position? There are a lot of things to think about. It's a very convoluted story, but I'm fascinated by it. So again, do you take the high school kid, somebody you probably know a little more about, but he may take longer to develop, at 4 years, or do you take the more likely impact player, but you may not know as much about him because he's from further away? Now, if it's a kid locally like the University of Florida and he's from Orlando or something, that's fine. You're going to have an easier time finding out background information. So anyway, moving on to segment 2. Here's your other challenge. UCF is at 15 commitments, and they've had a pretty darn good class, to be quite honest with you. Do they have any other needs that they don't already have taken care of with a commitment that you value higher than D tackle? For me, there is no second place. They don't have a pure D tackle, and I know they're looking in the portal. Should they take a D tackle in the high school ranks and or the junior college ranks in addition to the transfer portal? I think they've got to get 2 guys because number one, Kalia is gone. There's no way to just replace him. Even, he blew out his knee. He wasn't coming back anyway, so his career at UCF has concluded. But Barber will be back next year, and when he's not in the lineup, it's not the same. He is a playmaker. And when I say that, I don't mean just making tackles behind the line or getting a sack. He is a playmaker from the sense of he creates plays for his teammates, linebackers, DNs, D tackles, corners, safeties, everybody. He's the guy that's most likely to see a double team or them to try to get away from him, run the football another direction, whatever you want to say. They need more guys like that. D tackle is one of those spots, as generic as this may seem, you say sick 'em. There's technique with everything, but you need guys that are just better than the dude in front of them in the trenches. If you look at the teams that are ranked in the top 15 every year, then you go the next spring or the spring after that, look at the NFL draft. D-line in particular is going to be more big boy schools. That's just the way it's always been. There are exceptions to that, but like John Randall played at like Texas A&I or something like that. There are exceptions, but overall, the programs that produce the guys that go to the NFL along the D-line are big boy schools. UCF is kind of on that fringe now. They're starting to get some guys. They've got, I think, 3 guys just at D end right now that will get paid. That's really, really good. That's, Alabama, Notre Dame, USC, whatever you want. You can throw them in with that lot. But now you need to do that at D tackle as well. Can't be one or the other. Both. Period. If Gus Malzahn is true to his word and he wants to win a national title, he's got to find a way to get some of those guys here. And again, portal, JUCO, high school, they're all available. UCF can take any of those kind of kids, and it's not that freaking hard to recruit to Orlando. For anybody that hasn't been to UCF's campus, it is absolutely gorgeous. So the last thing I'm going to talk about here with this, I'm guessing they're going to take, and this is really convoluted because the NCAA's recent ruling, I'll go over it for about the 10th time. It still blows my mind how they keep changing things. I'm going to guess they're going to end up with about another 5 high school kids. And this includes not only the December, but also the February signing period. There are 2 in the NCAA. There are 2. First February, Wednesday in February every year is a signing day. It's been that way forever. The newbie is the one that's now in December, the more important one, because about 89% of the kids sign then, and that's the 15th of December. I'm guessing that they're going to get some kids out of the portal. How many, I don't know. But here's the new NCAA rule. And again, I've talked about this in previous podcasts. If you lose a player to transfer, and UCF is certainly one of them that has lost some guys, scholarship player, for up to 7 of them, the NCAA has granted that you can have another scholarship for a high school player. Here's pretty much what has happened. UCF is as much at fault for this as anybody, but it is what it is. They're just trying to win. The class of 2022, the current seniors in high school playing football, a kid like Ncaa Martinez, who had an offer from Gus Malzahn when he was at Auburn, and when Martinez was a freshman, it doesn't matter. But a lot of kids were kind of on that cusp. Okay, I was going to get an offer. COVID happened, and it just destroyed everything for recruiting because most college coaches are as stubborn as concrete. They do not change. They want to see kids live on their campus, in front of them, instruct them, talk to them, meet with them, period. They do not care about Zoom. They do not care about what you did on game film. Meet me on my campus. And it has killed high school recruiting, especially for this class, because the last 2 years, most kids really couldn't complete the visits they needed, and they certainly couldn't do it in a camp setting in a timely fashion. O-line and quarterback in particular, because those positions fill up a little quicker and they're more difficult to evaluate because it's so technical. They really got screwed. Now, with that being said, the NCAA is like, oh, well, here, we'll try to help you a little bit. And that's what it is. But I'm not sure what the number is now in terms of the overall scholarships that you're allowed. Last year, because of COVID, the NCAA just dropped their requirement. You could only have 85 scholarships prior to that, and it's been that way since the early 90s. They just lifted it. It's just whatever it is, which is bizarre. But again, COVID is a once in a millennium kind of thing. So fair enough. But they want them to drop all the way to 85 after that the next year, which is an NCAA thing to do, meaning they're idiots. You can't just go from whatever you want to 85. It doesn't work. So everybody was just going to say, screw it and not take high school kids. Flat out. I mean, it's not just UCF. I've talked to coaches all over. It's the same crap. So with that being said, there's kind of an in-between. But what does that mean as far as the 85? I have not heard that number. So again, I'm guessing low 20s. I want to guess they'll take 5 to 7 more kids. Somewhere around 22 will sign with UCF after the conclusion of the February. But this is something to monitor because at any time, the NCAA, the goofiest organization in the history of mankind, could screw this up further. And they're very capable of it. Why? They're the NCAA. I don't know if that number has come out and I've missed it, but even if it did, I honestly don't care. They could change it again. Announcing the extra 7 or whatever as late as they did just shows their lack of foresight, as if they didn't think this through, which they obviously didn't. It's amazing they had that many millions of dollars coming in and they have failed this miserably. It's just unbelievable. But with that being said, hopefully UCF can find a few diamonds in the rough or kids that decommit from other schools. Again, I've talked about this a lot on Inside the Knights. With all the coaches that could be gone. I mean, Mullen probably isn't going to get canned at Florida, but his recruiting class is in deep trouble. Miami, unless I missed it in the last day or so, they don't have a commitment from South Florida. That is mind-boggling. And they've actually played pretty good recently. I know they choked at the very end against Florida State, but I actually attribute that more to an incredible pass from Jordan Travis than anything else. He threw a dart. They've been playing pretty good, though. They've won a couple of key games. They beat NC State and Pittsburgh. So maybe they'll pick up something. Florida State has been all over the map. They just don't have the talent they need. That's a very long rebuild. And then also USF, Lord only knows. UCF, maybe they pick up something from one of these other schools, but UCF just got, bludgeoned by SMU, so maybe they lose somebody. The last month here, we're going to see a lot of different things happen. A lot of different things. And again, I'm going to try to update it as much as I can, but I have never seen anything this convoluted in my life with recruiting. And I'm not just talking about the NCAA, but the state of Florida in general is in complete chaos with coaching. Gus is about the only guy that I think is safe amongst the primary 5 programs here: USF, UCF, Florida State, Miami. The guy at USF, he's a good guy. I live in Tampa, but I mean, if they don't do something better next year, he's going to get canned. He's going to get fired. Same thing with the other 3 guys. UCF is going to take advantage in some way, shape, or form. How that works out, I don't know. Again, with the NCAA rules, it is mind-bogglingly difficult to understand it. And I'm not sure I want to, by the way. So with that, a few other notes here. I've got some things coming up on the site. I'm going to talk about TJ Bullard tomorrow. He is a very talented player, and he's one I've talked about a couple of times. I need to see some of his film again, check out what he's done. When I went to see him earlier this season play against Tampa Catholic, I was very impressed. That'll be part of my review, but I want to see the games thereafter. They played on the road. They played against Arch Manning, the stud quarterback out of Louisiana. And yes, he is a relative of Peyton and Eli. That would be their nephew. So it's going to be interesting with him. I'm kind of curious what they've done with him. And I'm also going to pick one other review that I haven't decided on for tomorrow. And also on Inside the Night, it's going to have a little bit more information about UConn. I've backed off of that pretty much this week because, quite frankly, UConn is terrible, awful, atrocious, whatever you want to say. And if UCF doesn't win by 30, they have nobody to blame but themselves. They are terrible. So I haven't written as much about it. There's just no reason not to look at it that way. Just I focused on recruiting. So everybody have a safe evening. I thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Take care.